Thank you so much. And thank you to Narrative 4. I want to check that everybody can hear me. Yeah, give me a thumb. All right, I see those thumbs. So I'm looking at what people are looking to get from the workshop. We're going to talk a little bit about storytelling skills. We'll have some breakout rooms. I want to tell you a lot about play and the importance of getting a deep listening partner. But first, let me tell you about my journey into story, or at least one part of it. I was at Kent State University. They had a storytelling conference. I was wowed. It was amazing. I remember Bat Burns was an Irish teller and he took me to Ireland and I'd never been there, but through the story I'd been there. And then the conference got up and walked away. And I was story starved. And I learned at the age of 18, 19 to storytelling on old cassette tapes. But it was a lonely business. And I wasn't as strong as a storyteller as I could be if I had a partner in storytelling. And so, long story short, I became the first full-time high school storytelling teacher in the country. Got 2 advanced degrees in storytelling, but the real degree that I got was sitting on a dilapidated old couch listening to my mother from West Virginia tell me stories. She said, "You're not getting up until you hear this story." And I was taken to worlds that of her growing up, and I was able to be transplanted, and I learned the value of deep listening. So what I want us to do is everybody, this is crazy, but go off mic for 1 second and repeat after me. I just go ahead.
I
I
Give myself
give
give
myself
myself
permission
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 to play,
to
to
play,
play,
to have fun,
to have
to have
fun,
to
fun,
make mistakes,
to make
mistakes,
mistakes,
because I know
because I
because I
know
know
stories connect us,
stories
stories
connect
connect
us,
us,
and I am connected to story.
and I'm
and I'm
connected to
connected to
story.
story.
Let the stories begin.
Let
Let
the
the stories
stories
begin.
begin.
I want you to think about what you just said, that you've given yourself permission. I was studying at Northwestern University, and Reeves Collins runs his theater program through storytelling, and he says we don't give ourselves enough permission. And I thought about that. We often know the places that we can't play. We don't know the places that we can. We need to be able to give ourselves permission to make mistakes, have fun, and we're going to be with partners that we give ourselves permission and have fun. So here's what I want you to think about. You're just going to think about a story idea. You're going to talk about a story idea. And instead of coming in as a creation where the story is already fixed and made, I want you to give yourself permission to play with it so that we can explore all kinds of different directions with the story. Sound like a fun time? All right. So Adrian Chambers is a children's illustrator or artist and out of Australia who said that the most important words that we can listen to, I'm about to tell you, but first, I need a wonderful volunteer. And we should never fear public speaking because Lance Henson, a Cheyenne Native American poet, said, "Stories are gifts. It's up to us to take them and receive them." And so just wave your hand and I'll have you share some gifts with me. I see Kim. Come on down, Kim. We're going to have you share here. All right. Let's give snaps for Kim. Kim, good to see you. Where are you from?
I'm from Rhode Island.
Oh, love Rhode Island. The beautiful storytellers out there that I do know. This is really simple. So I'm going to ask you this question. You're just going to answer. What did you have for breakfast?
Oh, for breakfast, I had 2 beautifully boiled eggs that my husband put on the stove about 10 minutes before I ate them. And I peeled them and served them to him as well. And I had them with a little salt, and it was delicious.
Now, I want everyone to listen to the question that I asked next. And Kim, I just want you to answer with an honest response. Tell me about your breakfast.
Oh, okay. My breakfast came from random chickens that I've never met in my life. They probably grew up in a very tight container of a space, but I'm grateful they delivered these beautiful roundish, ovalish eggs to me that I put up in my silver pot with a copper bottom until they were slightly solid in the middle. And as I peeled them, I felt the gratitude for these probably unhealthy chickens. But the box said pasture raised, so I hope that they actually were. And as I peeled my eggs, I felt the gratitude and said thank you to the chickens and plopped the eggs in my mouth.
I love that you thanked the chickens and they were questionable eggs. And at the same time, let me ask this question of the audience. What is the difference between what did we learn from the difference between the first one and the second one?
The first question was very general. And the second question encouraged her to give more details. And I really was pleased with her answers, with her answer. I thought it was very interesting that she started with the chicken and ended up with being grateful and plopping it into her mouth. I could just feel the egg just going into my mouth.
I love it. Thank you, Chris. And please feel free to fill the chat with things that you really liked about Kim's telling of the chicken here. Kim, what I was showing was Adrian Chambers said that when we ask what or why, we're asking people to defend where they are or what they're doing. If we ask tell me, we're saying we're creating a space to listen together.
I love that.
Kim, I so appreciate you. I appreciate you listening, and I want to thank you. Snaps and claps for Kim. And so here's what we're going to do. The very powerful when we say, tell me more. We're going to put you in a breakout room with just one other person, and we need to see you. If not, it might be an audio clue because we know that cameras don't work. But part of telling is listening, and part of telling is seeing so that you can respond. And I want you to, first person A will tell just a story. And it can be under these prompts. It could be good day. I had a good day, and then go into specifics. We're going to use the same prompt. Or it could be good trouble because we're all hopefully getting into some good trouble. And then the other one, a good friend. But don't just say my friend is this or this. Tell a specific moment. And then the listener. Here's the difference between having and I'm a writing coach, having a person critique and evaluate you is not as necessary as having a deep listener when you're framing a story or you're in the process of making a story. So a deep listener is if the room was on fire, you'd neither see it, taste it, or touch it because you're so attuned to that story. So try to give that. It's a privilege and practice art. As Laura Sim says, listening is an act of generosity. So you'll be in the breakout rooms, and I want you to listen. And after that person tells that one story, say, tell me more about this. And then here's the second prompt. Tell me again about, and they'll use new words and you'll see a new way of looking at that story. We're only going to have 10 minutes or so to be in those breakout rooms, but let me just repeat. The prompt is good trouble, good friend, or good day. And you have one person listen for 1 minute, and then you say, tell me and tell me again. And then the second person does the same thing. And if you have time, you can take what they've asked and put it into a retelling of the story. But I kind of doubt we'll have that much time, but we'll see. Everybody take a deep breath, hold for just a second, and breathe out. 70% of all communication is in how we breathe. And if we practice breathing every day, we're going to have more command in how we talk and who we are. Hey, welcome back to everybody. the best words that you can say to someone that was listening to you, and I don't know if you had a chance, go ahead and go off mic and say it with deep meaning. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Because listening is an act of generosity. It really, really is. We're going to take 4 or 5 minutes just to reflect on that. I'm gonna give you a secret that, you know, I've been to many writing workshops, I've been to many storytelling workshops, and when we're giving feedback, we often say, "Oh, that was great! I really loved it! I loved it!" But what I like to hear if I'm developing a story is what I call talk in story. Try to talk from the point of view of something in the story without giving too much. I heard about a wonderful place in Italy with a surprise, and I'd be like, how was the surprise? I could see the room, but you know, I don't want to say too much because I was, you know, deep listening without permission. But please think about talk in story for the next exercise that we do, where you specifically let people rethink and re-see. I had you tell me more about this and tell again. And when you were telling again, that teller got to say in a new way what they'd already said. And I'll talk a little bit that we're too plot obsessed and that story depends on character and trouble. But let me hear from you. Anyone want to say just how was that? What, you know, I had some questions that I hear, which is what did you learn? How was this different than standard feedback? I see Cynthia, and feel free to just go off mic and.
Sure. Hi. I shared with my group that I love the prompts because I felt that it allowed the storyteller to go down an avenue that they may not have necessarily gone on their own and made them think. And it came out of the mind of the listener and what they wanted to know more about the story. So I thought it was a wonderful exercise.
Excellent. And thank you. And we need to be unpredictable because honestly, the stories that we know already, we have patterned and we need to break patterns. Donald Davis says we're plot obsessed and character in trouble is where Jerome Bruner says narrative is the engine, trouble is the engine of narrative. Think about that. That's what makes stories stronger. And having prompts like that you didn't plan can help build not only the story, but the stronger ability to tell it. Others, I'm looking for hands.
I just have to say, Kevin.
Please. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Honestly, okay, I was just in a coaching group last night, and the question seemed to be, I wonder if you'll do this. I wonder if you do this. Honestly, this is genius, and I'm going to bring this up. Tell me more about that, because the teller is the architect of the story, and so many times if someone's listening to you, they want to create your story. They want to they wonder something. It's really, I wonder if you would do it this way, the way that I would do it, instead of tell me more. And that puts the focus right on the teller. This is genius. This one thing is worth this entire hour.
Oh, Carla, it's good to see you, and I appreciate hearing that. I'm not going, but my definition of I wonder is that you're insatiably curious. And that's when it becomes good coaching, because I'm going to talk about that as well. But I wonder when you're trying to script that it would be better is different than I wonder just how old he was to talk to that girl, you know, because you answer by in story what you're most curious about. Not, I wonder, since I'm a story planner, that I could do this and that and this and that.
I had a wonderful experience listening to Belina, and I think what happens sometimes is that when you listen with intent and you lean in, and even though it's on Zoom, your body language, you don't need your words because you're showing that you want to hear more and you're listening with intent. And then the storyteller, Belina, had no idea she was going to go down that road with the story, and it kept unfolding and unfolding. I needed to ask no question until the very end and then we got cut off, and then I had to put in the chat privately to her, so when was this, when it happened? Like, just give me a context, because now I want to know more, you know? So
Excellent.
sometimes it's not with our questions, it's just giving that person the time to speak unhurriedly.
If we are deep listeners, our bodies are also deep listening. There's nothing, I used to teach storytelling every day, full time at a high school, and I would listen to 60 stories a day. And I tell my student, your story, I need to take a break. Your story is too important for me to be distracted. Give me 1 minute so I can come back. And this student would say, I've never had anyone tell me that what I had to say was that important. So when we really deep listen, it makes a world of difference. And it is a practiced and privileged art. So we want to find a deep listener to our lives and to our stories. It is so, so important. Um, Time is going fast, and I could talk forever, but I want to give you ways that you can move your stories. And I am going to ask Alondra to come in, and we're going to do something different. All right, Alondra, how are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing? You're doing great.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. And she works with Narrative 4, and everybody should be involved in Narrative 4. I'm trained in Narrative 4, and honestly, the training never stops. It's a beautiful thing that keeps emerging as you keep getting involved. Alondra, thank you for that work that you're doing. But right now, we're going to do something called Explode the Moment and Diffuse the Moment. I wrote a book on playing with stories that has this in it. So here's the deal. So when we're writing, sometimes we're handcuffed to the text because we only go with the script that we created. I believe we should word dance before we ever go to a solitary desk. Lev Vygotsky said in problem-based play, we are a head taller merely because we work together. And so Alondra's my deep listening partner today. We're going to do a thing called Explode the Moment. Go like this, Alondra. All right. And she or I, whoever wants to start, is going to tell a story. And if we're going to explode the moment, we're going to move our hands higher up and we'll make the moment even more significant. If we diffuse the moment, it'll go lower and you make it smaller, but not insignificant. So, Alondra, you want me to model the process first? So pick for good trouble, good friend, or good day. Which one? And always tell what the first thing on your head because you're in practice and play. You're not doing performance. You're doing discovery work. May lead to performance. Up to you. Alondra, which one do you want to hear?
Good day, please.
Good day. Good day. This is the first thing that came to my head. My father was sick most of the times in his life. And he worked at Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. And I always thought Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company took away my father so that he could work, but I wouldn't get to know him as much. But I heard this beautiful moment. I heard this moment when all my family went to North Carolina. And when they were in North Carolina, they'd say, Dad, is that the ocean to every small body of water. But my dad was there, and there he went over the bank and he looked and he said in a soft, soft tone, beautiful, beautiful. He didn't say it loud like that, but I heard it loud like that. It was amazing. He said beautiful. And honestly, I love my dad, and he had no problem sharing love, but I've never heard him say the word beautiful. Thank you, Alondra. And I picked Good Trouble.
Hey, so my mom got herself into some good trouble with my dad when I was about 15 years old, and she decided last minute that she wanted to get a dog. Despite my dad's wishes of wanting to wait a little longer, maybe a couple more years, but my mom fell in love with this beautiful dog. And I also fell in love with him too. When I saw a picture of him, I just thought he was the cutest little thing that I had ever seen. And then I was like, oh my gosh, we have to have you. There's no way we can't have you. So, of course, I was on board with my mom, and my siblings also were really excited about getting a dog. But I was like, I have to go right here, right now. Mom, when are we leaving? So we got into the car and we convinced my dad to go with us.
Claps. Oh, Alondra, excellent, excellent. And deep listeners would talk in story. We only have time for like one sentence I could see the beauty and the magnet and the space that your dog took. Not from just raising, but like, oh, I had to have it, I have to have it. And I could see that come alive. What's one thing that you saw?
I saw in your story just a lot of love and a lot of peace and joy in there as well. And it was just comfort. I kind of felt like I was surrounded in comfort as you were sharing your story, and I felt that you were also feeling a little bit of that too.
And if we went round two into deep listening, we would talk about the exacting moments, whether, and you could say something that you only saw in your head. I saw you take your father's hand, when he would come home from Goodyear. Because then I could go, oh, you saw that? Maybe it happened. Maybe I could use that. And if it didn't happen, I'm the architect and designer to take those suggestions. With that, everybody breathe in. Hold for 1,000 seconds. I'm kidding. Breathe out. And we're going to put you back in the breakout rooms. But if someone didn't get to tell, let them tell first. And you will listen, you'll do explode the moment and then diffuse the moment and then try to talk in story back. And I think it's going to be a blast. I can't wait to hear. And I may sneak in your room, but keep telling if I do. See you in a few. I can see by your faces that you came back and heard some good stories. Go off mic and just say thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to my
Thank
story.
you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
In certain parts of Zimbabwe, instead of saying hello, they say, I see you. And the other person says, you are here. Imagine story as a place to be seen. There's a value in being seen. There's a value in deeply being listened to. It's a privilege and a practice. For the last 11 years, I think, act, and respond in narrative in my life, in my work, and what I do. I actually teach it to my students. I give you that same challenge or invitation to think, act, and respond. I call it a narrative mindset. And I saw a little bit of it. I want you to tell me a little bit about your experience working with Explode the Moment, or even the conversations after, because I heard some of them, or Diffuse the Moment. How was that different than traditional feedback?
We had a lot of fun discussion at ours kind of before we started and afterwards about kind of who's directing who in these moments. Like, is the person with their arm controlling the dynamics or the volume or the intensity of the story, or is it the person telling the story and the hand is responding to it? And we had 3 people in ours, and through that kind of experimentation, it was it's a little bit of both. There's this really fun feedback loop happening, where you see someone responding to your energy, so you continue to respond to it to match it, and then how do they respond to you respond, and it just creates this whole really fun conversation that's not being spoken underneath the actual story, which is fun.
I had the joy of being in their room, and when this really works, it becomes a co-creative practice. The teller is as essential as the listener. And the movement, the eye, the way the hand moves, you think, I'm going to help this person with the story by moving it this direction, or just deeply listen. Some people forget about the hands because the story is so involving. Someone else, tell us a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, so I found that when I was telling and responding to the feedback, the story was going in different directions than I think I would have taken it if it hadn't been for that. Because as it's going up, I'm like, well, I really need to up this, so I better, and so it was just going to places I wouldn't have gone with it, which was exciting. Like, you're talking about playing and discovery, it was definitely a lot of play.
Plot can trap us. The unpredictable. We remember life through the extremes. We need to keep that in mind. When we interrogate and instigate, it moves our story better. But let me hear from Val.
Yeah, thank you. I was just thinking about the fact that it's an agreement to play together, because you're agreeing to be directed, and you can make those choices yourself, but you agree to go with your partner. And Katie and I were also talking about the fact that this is a very spontaneous and improvisatory approach to just jumping in. There's no pre-thought, planning, expectations. You just allow something to emerge, and it's not too precious. So it feels very playful and alive, and I like that a lot. It's very creative.
Thank you for that. Catherine Boomer calls it the hidden gems. Sometimes when you're not planning, you find the hidden gems. And unplanned leads to better work and shared work. And it's so important. Others that might give a reaction. So breathe in, just a moment. Breathe out. An active rest and reflection is when meaning is made. We spend too much time in a rush, whether we're creating, whether we're forming, whether we're in work. We need to actively create spaces where we can say, wow, I learned this. And in my examples, from a narrative mindset, what story did I build today? Where did I go from here? How can I deeply listen better to the the carrier, the mailman, or the mail person? How can I, or my students, or my wife? It is so important that we practice deep listening with a partner. We can get to a state of readiness when we're with a critique partner. And I honestly think a critique partner needs compassion too. But that, G. Lynn Nelson wrote a book called Writing and Being, and said, when you're listening to someone, when they're critiquing, what kind of eyes do you want? Hard eyes because they're ready for hard comments and feedback, or soft eyes because they're just in the process of making the story? And I just remembered when you were saying story directing, I call it story mediation, because it's really a give and take, a push and pull, and a sharing exchange between two people as you mediate meaning, as you work to build the meaning. So I want to issue a little, a challenge. I'm going to give you right now, before we kind of close up, 3 pieces of feedback that you can ask that have been amazing responses once asked and are true indicators of deep listening. Carla mentioned it in a different way, but the very first one is, I wonder. When you're really seriously curious about something in the story to help it improve, become better, or just help satisfy a curiosity that was missing in the story. Not an evaluation, but a wonder. And the second one is, have you considered? Have you considered is not, I would do this if I were you. Have you considered talking more about the sky, because the sky was so prominent? I wonder, have you considered? And the other one, and this is one of the strongest, I studied process drama and storytelling at Ohio State, or the Ohio State, and we worked in imaginative inquiry. Imagine. You're just rethinking and reseeing and revaluing the stories that are being told. So those 3 things, I wonder, have you considered, and imagine, are powerful feedback tools more than a critique. It's getting you inside the story. So kind of as a recap, the value, first, just as simple as breathing together, can help you become in the moment of the story. The second thing is, tell me and tell me again, so they know you're sincerely listening. We spend so much time distancing ourselves and from others that we need to make dialogic spaces for us to create and imagine and play together. Give yourself permission to play. Move inside the world of play. Albert Einstein said, play is the highest form of research. And if you are thinking about improving yourself, that's like doing research. or on your ability. Also realize that the story making process is just as important as the storytelling process. So explore the imagine, have you considered, and I wonder. And then think about the tools in the moment of story, whether they explode the moment or diffuse the moment. It is really important that we value what we have to offer. All of us innately are wired for story. If you read Lisa Cron or Angus Fletcher, we have a story-based mind. It's how we respond. And it has been such a pleasure to go on this journey with you with story making and storytelling, giving yourself permission to play, and learning to become a deep listener on an invaluable practice of your own story and the stories of others. Story, for me, is central in all decisions that I make. I don't spend my time looking away from the story. I walk toward the story. So we have just enough time maybe for one or two questions, and then we'll end. And we literally have like 1 minute. But if you have a question, I can answer it, and then I'll give you the last thing to think about.
Kevin,
Yes.
I do have one question, and that is, can you say more about imaginative inquiry? Because if you say, I wonder, have you considered, what are you saying when you do the imaginative inquiry?
Thank you. And give me your first name.
Carla.
Oh, well, hey, Carla. Imaginative inquiry is actually a process by Brian Edmondson, Edmiston. He wrote a book called Imagine to Learn. I studied with him for 7 years, and he studied with Dorothy Hethgud, who brought the idea of process drama into story. So in 1 minute, I'll tell you this. I am trained specifically in coaching people. Carla, if you are telling a story, I coach you inside the world that you are telling. So we create the story as though it's there. And I don't interrupt your story, but I might extend it with side coaching, or it's an advanced process. But by its very, very core, imaginative inquiry is giving yourself permission to imagine the story other ways through the prompting of someone else.
Okay.
Carla, does that help?
Yeah, that helps.
And if you want more on that, feel free to email me.
Okay.
KevinCordi.com will get you to like a contact thing.
Okay.
Everybody breathe in. Breathe out. Go off mic and say, I believe in the power of story. Or
I
go,
believe in the power of
Believe
story.
in the power of
Our
story.
story.
I believe in
Amen.
myself.
I believe in myself.
Believe in
I
myself.
believe in myself.
I believe in listening to others.
I
I
believe
believe in listening to
to
others.
others.
I believe in play.
I
I
believe
believe in play.
So in your journey, I want you to play on, tell on, write on, and realize the inherent value that story has to your life. Story indeed is a gift, and it has been a gift to listen to you and share a little bit about what I know. If I can help you on that journey, I would welcome being part of your story. From my story to yours, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin. Just a
Great.
round of virtual snaps for Kevin. Thank you so much for that amazing workshop. And thank you all for joining us. We hope to see you next month on October 30th. We'll have a workshop with Deborah Kaffer, who's a memorist. Yeah, see you soon. Have a great day.